everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carla and I make videos about how I show up for myself in hopes of inspiring you to do the same. And by showing up for myself, I managed to transform my entire life, lost over half my body weight, overhauled my mental health, changed career, and I'm living the best life that I possibly could have. Actually, it's even better than I ever imagined. It still has its trials and tribulations because that's real life, but honestly, I feel so amazing in comparison to the way that I did before. As I've said, show up for yourself is my motto, and that is how I live my life. And there are a lot of different ways in which I like to show up for myself and what that means to me and what it means to me on specific times. But in today's video, what I wanted to share with you were a number of tips to help us to show up for ourselves, specifically within the winter months. For me, showing up for myself means both doing the things that I want to do, allowing myself to give myself permission to do things that are good for me, that I want to do, and also doing some of the difficult things that maybe I don't want to do, but I know will benefit me in the long run. I love that expression, do something today for your future self. And while not all show up for yourself activities are necessary for your future self, it's also a part of thinking, you know, if I don't feel like doing something today, but I know it's going to be beneficial to me in the long run, then maybe I will, you know, try and incorporate it now. So show up for yourself is both the positive, like, you know, things that are kind of easier and nicer to do, and sometimes they are the things that we are a little bit like, I don't really want to do that, but I know I probably should. The reason I'm talking very specifically about the winter months is because personally, I find the winter months really challenging now. I used to be very much so a winter baby. I loved the Burr months. I loved, you know, lead up to Christmas. I loved Christmas. I loved the winter, the darkness, the cold. And since my transformation and since losing a lot of weight and kind of overhauling my mental health, I realized that the winter for me was a time for me to hide away and to kind of, you know, like be a recluse, and it was okay to do that. Whereas in the summer, you know, you kind of get a bit of FOMO if people are doing things, and I didn't feel like I was able to or capable of. The summer also used to be very difficult for me in a bigger body because of clothes and heat and things like that. So, and swelling. And so when I've realized over the last 2 years that I am definitely now more of a spring summer baby than I have been of a winter baby, which is bizarre to me. Like my birthday is in December, like I'm very much so a winter baby. But I've definitely found that specifically after having my son, that the winter months are actually more challenging for me, that I find them more difficult because of how dark it is, how, you know, kind of almost sometimes a bit lonely it can feel. So without further ado, let's get into the tips that I have for you guys on how to show up for yourself this winter. Tip number one is slightly counterproductive to what I just said about feeling a bit lonely, but it is actually to say no to things. Around Christmas time, we get lots of invites in. There's lots of Christmas parties, there's lots of things, you know, there's obligations, there's family things. There is dinners and friends' houses, and, you know, there's a lot of socializing. I am an omnivert, so I both have extroverted tendencies, but I'm also introverted as well. I find that I deal really well with one-on-one or small groups of people. I find it incredibly challenging to be in large groups, to speaking to large groups at a time. Unless I'm like doing something very specific, I find it easier. But with Christmas, with this time, sparkle season, etc., I definitely find that I am finding it more challenging to, you know, to go to so many events and so many dinners and so many things that somebody has arranged, and, you know, a family thing that might actually be not really that positive for me. And a way for me to show up for myself is actually to check in with myself and how I'm feeling and go, do you know what? I actually don't think I need to go to this. I think I would benefit more from staying at home. So please don't feel obligated to do something just because you've invited or because you've said yes. You can always say no, you can cancel, and it's okay to do so. Maybe, give people a heads up or, let them know. But I've personally have cancelled a couple of things in the last few weeks because I've just gone, this is too much for me. I need to show up for myself, take care of myself, and make sure that I am feeling the best that I can. Tip number 2 is to prioritize light. I live in very much so the Northern Hemisphere, and I live very north in the Northern Hemisphere, and it tends to, we get about 8 hours of light here a day when it's like full blown in daylight savings time. So from, the sun rises between 7 and 8 and starts setting between 4 and 5. Why can I not remember the thing that comes after 4? And I love to go for my walks. I love to, I love to exercise, but I tend to find that I go out in the morning when it's dark. I might come back, I might be sitting at home, doing work. I might be working from home, and then I finish working and it's pitch black outside, and therefore I have not actually gotten any vitamin D, any sun, any fresh air in that time. I might not have seen the sun for that full day. Finding a way to get that fresh air, that sun into your body, and now it might not be sun because, it might be rain, but even trying to get that light, get that natural light into our system, get that vitamin D through the clouds into our system will help us to feel so much better. And your body needs that kind of natural light. It's not natural for us to be, hidden away all day. So try and get out, on your lunch break, or try and take a 10-minute walk, even just around the block. Tip number 3, and something that I find that really helps me to show up for myself, is journaling. Now, you guys know that I am a massive journaler. I have my own journals. Where are they? You guys know I have my own journals, the Show Up For Yourself journals, and I literally call them this because showing up for yourself via journaling is one of my favorite activities to do. I find that doing this, especially in the winter months, I find that I get very reclusive and very quiet during the winter months. I find that I'm definitely kind of hibernate into myself. And with that, I don't tend to release some of the things that I need to release that are kind of stewing, brewing, bubbling away inside me. Maybe not necessarily incredibly negative, but just things that I'm processing. I tend to find that they are stuck inside me. But by journaling, I do find, on #ownbrand, I do find you can do with whatever paper you want to. You don't have to use my journals. I find that there is, even on the wrap on the outside of the journals, it says there is where is it? I use it as a bookmark now. Somebody suggested that. I thought it was a great idea. You unlock a truth in you when you put pen to paper. And honestly, that is so true, because it gives you a moment to, when we're typing or we're thinking, our thoughts are like crazy. They're going all over the place. But when you actually break it down, you hone it back in again to yourself, and then you release that out onto a page, it's a form of self-therapy. It's a form of self-care. It's a form of showing up for yourself, because you are unlocking something that's inside you, because it takes a little bit longer to write it. It's a little bit of a slower process. And by doing so, you're allowing that to come out, get out of your body through your arm, whether you're left or right-handed, and come out then and feel much better. I honestly noticed that I find it more difficult to journal in the winter, but I find it more beneficial, and I think that's because of the seasonal adjustment disorder. I think it's because there's a lot more, naturally hibernating kind of activity going on within my body. Tip number 4, which seems obvious, but it's something that I think that we do forget, is to prioritize physical well-being and physical activity during those darker winter months. I am a walker, and as you guys know, I share my walks every single morning on Instagram, and I get questions all the time about what do I do during the winter? What do I do during the long winter months? And honestly, I still go out and I still do it in the darkness. And no, it doesn't scare me. And I made a video about that, and I'll leave that up here if you guys want to check it out. But I need to prioritize my physical health, not just for my physical being, but also for my mental health. As I was saying, winter makes me more insular, but I find that walking is like a moving meditation for me. It helps me to move. But if you are in a country where it is very difficult, you know, walking is your activity when you are, you know, during the lighter months, and you find that you are then kind of stuck during the winter months when you've got like 6 foot of snow outside and you literally cannot go out, because I live in a very mild temperate climate. But I do find that if you can find another type of physical activity that suits you, that makes you feel good, it will make you feel better than during the winter months. It's a way of showing up for yourself. It's giving to your body something that it needs and that it's craving. For example, you know, like I've started dancing again recently. I was dancing during the winter, but I actually started more intensely dancing now during the winter months because it's an indoor activity. I can do it. I don't have to go outside, and it helps me to prioritize my physical as well as my mental health during those darker winter months. And then the final way that I am going to be showing up for myself this winter is to take it as a time to reflect on where I have been for the year and where I want to go moving on. And I think that this is an activity that can be both uncomfortable and also very positive. It's, you know, I know that like Roxy Nafusi, you know, the Manifest Roxy, I'm sure most of you know who she is. She always does this at New Year's Eve. You know, she does a manifestation board for the next year. It's something similar, but I think that the winter is a good time to kind of really reflect on what we've done in the last year that we like. What are we proud of? What have we achieved? What's different between this year and last year? And really try to like take a piece of paper, take whatever it is, or just sit there and have a chat with somebody about it. But by doing so, you can kind of see what you want to take into the next year. So for me, it'll be taking into 2024. What is it that I want to leave behind, and what it is that I want to bring with me? We don't really take stock all the time of what we have achieved and how good our lives have been. What are we grateful for this year? What has happened so far this year? And what is that we'd like to bring into the future with us, you know, into the springtime? What is it that we would like to achieve next year? And as those months then start to become brighter, where we're not necessarily living in the future, we are prepared, we are ready to move forward and to, you know, start the new year and start the new seasons off on a really good footing, and get yourself in there, get yourself ready for that new beginning. And I do believe that kind of almost like an audit of our lives and how we've lived our lives for a year, and maybe sit down with your partner or sit down with your husband or wife and see, you know, as a family, what is it that you have done? It could be a nice activity for, you know, on one of like the dark nights where you're not really going out, you're not doing anything, you know, particular. But it's a form of showing up for yourself because it helps you to really settle in and see, okay, what is it? How is my life going at the moment? The winter, you know, when we think of winter, we think of those darker months. It's almost like a hibernation. It's like a pause. You know, there are certain things that are happening, but, you know, a couple of other things kind of go wayward. Let's have a look as a family. You know, how are we with our kids? What is it that we want to address next year? What is it we want to reduce or even start there and then? But doing that and sitting down and having that audit as a family and as an individual and encouraging other people in your lives to do it will help you to see what it is that we can leave behind and where we can go in the future. Guys, that's the end of this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Please let me know if you would like any other show up for yourself tips or tricks or, you know, hints or what I'll be doing for any other particular season or under any other circumstances. Let me know down in the comments. Please make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and like this video and share it with somebody who you think might benefit from a little bit of showing up for themselves over the darker months. And please don't forget to show up for yourselves, and I will chat to you soon. Bye guys.